Good morning, everybody. I'm
Good
Andrea
morning.
Jacobs, chair of this wonderful chamber. I'd like to welcome you to our second virtual breakfast. I hope everybody has their coffee, maybe a bagel. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining us. We thank you for your dedication and support. As an added benefit for trustee members, we feature a trustee minute at the mic each breakfast. So Leah Shields, Planet Fitness.
So as you know, currently all gyms in Coral Springs and Coconut Creek are closed, but Planet Fitness, with over 2,000 stores, we are dedicated to making the world a better place and changing lives. We do understand with the current epidemic and everything that's going on, we have to change our way of doing it. So here's a 1-minute video of how we're going to do it.
At Planet Fitness, we're committed to keeping the judgment-free zone cleaner than ever. There's no surface we won't sanitize, no machine we won't scrub. Because when it comes to keeping our club safe and spotless, our team are lean, not mean, cleaning machines. If you can lift it, leg it, pull it, or press it, you know our team's keeping it squeaky with disinfectant spray, hand sanitizer, fully stocked cleaning stations for members, and the freshest cleaning rooms around. We're also making sure you have the space to spread out while you work out with touchless check-in when you walk in. You can be considerate too by scrubbing up and wiping down before and after you work out, and practicing cardio distancing while you do. At Planet Fitness, we're making sure that working out is good, clean fun. So if you're moving and shaking, you can know that we're wiping and spraying. Long distance thumbs up. See you at our Clean Thumb Club. We can't wait to get moving with you.
All right, thank you guys. Have a great morning.
Thank you. You too. Okay, we have some new member recognition. I don't know if any of our new members are here, but we have All Right, Chase Bank, Clear to Close Home Loans Corp, Cruise Planners with Jill, Do the Right Thing of Coconut, Dream Makers for Life Inc., F45 Training East Coral Springs, Florida Center for Allergy and Asthma Care, Insight Export Inc., Caribou 365, Paragon Public Adjusting, Pure Air Indoor Solutions, Salon Mia Bella and Blow Dry Bar, Tap Into Coral Springs, the DeVito Real Estate Team, Vanity Skin and Laser, Antiques and More, Children's Medical Association, Clear Defense LLC, Do the Right Thing of Coconut Creek, Dr. G's Urgent Care, Express Your Selfie, First Line Restoration, Coast Technologies, Kaniuk Law Office PA, Maria Bello PA, Pathways to Work, Quadrature Consulting, Talk Media, Tech Fit Consulting, Urban Air Adventure Park, and Wildflowers of Parkland. Welcome to our chamber. I would like to introduce the president of the chamber, Cindy Brief, to announce the upcoming events.
Good morning, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you today. I miss you guys. I just also wanted to let you know that when Ellis is done with his presentation, we're going to be doing a networking. So we'll have different rooms and you can network with each other just like you would at the breakfast. And think of all the weight you're not putting on by not going to the breakfast. You're not having bacon today. I just want to announce some of our upcoming events that we have. We're doing a Zoom 201. So we had originally did a Zoom class for beginners when we were all starting out. Now that we've become advanced in Zoom, Lois Bargolan will be our featured speaker for the Zoom 201, and that's going to be on Tuesday, May 26th at 9 a.m. So we'll be learning some more features in Zoom. So I recommend that you guys take this class because it'll be something that you may be using a lot in the future. We're having our trustee luncheon on Thursday, well, our trustee non-luncheon on Thursday, May 28th. Our guest speaker will be Miriam Brooks of Kelly Cronenberg, and the topic is what employers need to know during COVID-19. If you are interested in becoming a trustee, reach out to me. We have an ambassador committee meeting on Tuesday, June 2nd from 9 to 10 on Zoom. Our next PWA meeting will be on Wednesday, June 3rd on Zoom. Our guest speaker is Kristen Sanchez, traffic reporter for NBC6 News. And just to remind you, our Grand Gala has been postponed. We currently have a date of October 23rd, and we will provide updates as soon as we get them. So thank you everyone for being here. We appreciate seeing all of you, and stay safe. Now I'll turn it back to Andrea.
Thanks, Cindy. I just hope after the COVID-19 I can fit into my gala dress. Okay, and now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker. Ellis has been building powerful and beloved brands for over 20 years across industries ranging from consumer products to technology, from luxury goods to retail. He has worked for companies large and small, managing business portfolios worth hundreds of millions of dollars and building powerful brands like Listerine, Benadryl, American Express, and LG Electronics, to name a few. He has been responsible for managing large marketing teams and generating profitable returns from nine-figure marketing budgets. He was named a Brand Marketer of the Year by Brand Week magazine and is an expert in turning genuine customer insights into powerful marketing programs that drive profitable growth. As a business coach, corporate trainer, and adjunct professor, he is now focused on helping entrepreneurs develop their businesses into power brands. Please welcome Ellis Mass.
Thank you, Andrea. Good morning. Really appreciate the introduction, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting me. Really happy to be here and share this information with you guys today. Let me just make sure, can everybody hear me okay? I'm about to share my screen, but then I won't be able to see the chat, and I just want to make sure, just give me some head nods or something like that if you're hearing me okay. Everything's good. All right, great. Awesome. That will definitely help. So I am going to go ahead and start sharing my screen now. I believe that the Chamber is recording this. I will also make my slides available to you guys in PDF form. If anybody wants, I'll just show you how to request that at the end. So we're here today to talk about perfecting your post-COVID-19 pivot. You know, the old normal, I think, is gone, at least for now. And so how do we chart our path forward into what we're going to embrace as the new normal, and use that to our success as business owners and leaders? Let's see if we can go from here. So a little bit about me. I mean, Andrea already kind of gave the introduction. So I've been doing this for a while, delivering outstanding business results and building outstanding brands across a lot of companies. I'm now focused as a certified business coach, and I work directly with entrepreneurs. I also do adjunct at Broward College. We've started up for the summer semester. So Thursday evenings, you'll find me with my virtual classroom backdrop instead of this branded backdrop. That was kind of fun, actually. And I'm proud to be a trustee member of this chamber, which is a fantastic organization and something that I'm really proud to be associated with. Andrea also mentioned I'm affiliated with a group called FocalPoint. So this handsome man, Brian Tracy, wrote a lot of great books and developed a lot of great content. So about 250 of us across the country use a lot of his tools. I've got access to a lot of amazing Brian Tracy content that I'm happy to share with you. Just ask. But I do work independently right here in Broward County, Florida. I do business coaching. I do a lot of marketing strategy consulting, which is slightly different. And I do a lot of team workshops and seminars, time management, strategic planning, Salesforce training. Those are kind of the most popular ones. I will be talking about something towards the end where I can offer something to you for free. I want you to get the most out of what we're going to do today. So just real quickly, I mean, we all have different goals out of what we want to do with our time. And we might be on a scale of 1 to 10. Some of us might be a 10. Super focused. I've got notes I'm ready to take. I'm going to take away 2 or 3 nuggets from this. I'm fully prepared and engaged for that. Or, hey, it might be a 1. I've got other stuff going on. That's okay. Whatever you want to get out of this, that's okay. Just put the amount of effort and focus into this based on what you want to get out of this, and you will do great. I also did kind of hint. I have something for you that I'll offer at the end, which is some access to some great FocalPoint online trainings, which is extremely high value that I've got access to for a limited time. I will suggest that you have something ready to take some notes on, even if you only write down 1 or 2 nuggets. It's pretty well documented that if you write something down and you plan to take action today, you have a far greater chance of actually accomplishing something than if you hear everything and like it, but don't write it down. Chances are we'll get distracted. And as soon as this meeting's over, we're on to the next thing. We've got probably about 8 other things scheduled for today. You may have 11 Zooms scheduled for today. I want you to write a couple things down that you're actually going to go do and remember to go do. Okay. If you have questions for me, please use the chat box. I won't see the chat box until I stop and take a look at it because I'm sharing my screen right now. But if there's anything like super burning that needs to like stop, like you can't hear me anymore or something like that, maybe Holly Ann can speak up and stop me. Otherwise, I'm probably going to keep going. I'll stop at a couple of strategic points, but mainly at the end, I'll address any of the questions that have come up. So again, we're here to talk about perfecting our post-COVID-19 pivot. I've been using the word pivot about 11,000 times over the past couple months. Many of you have probably heard or used the word pivot. And every time I hear the word pivot, it makes me think of this episode of Friends where we had Ross trying to move the couch up to his apartment saying, pivot, pivot, pivot. So depending on what your TV watching habits are, this joke either lands really well with you and you're snorting some of your coffee or it doesn't land at all. So we'll just move on. I'm going to assume, since this would be great if I were in person, I'm just going to assume that you all really enjoyed that. But the other context in which we use the word pivot a lot is if you've ever played basketball on any level or coached or have kids that have played basketball, everybody talks about making a pivot when you're playing basketball, right? It's a fundamental skill of basketball. We pivot because sometimes when we picked up our dribble, we're not allowed to dribble anymore. We'd be called for double dribble. You know, we don't want to be, that's not allowed. We can't do that. So instead we have some options and we have to pivot in order to take advantage of those options. I want to dive into that just a little bit because really ultimately the fundamentals of the basketball pivot are pretty important to what we need to do with our businesses right now. So let's just imagine we've got our left foot and our right foot down on the basketball court. We've picked up the ball, we've picked up our dribble, and we're ready to execute a pivot. So what are the rules regarding a pivot? We're going to assume that our left foot is our pivot foot. So that can't come off the floor, right? You can rotate that, but it's got to remain planted on the floor at one fixed point. Our right foot, however, we can lift and replant it as many times as needed. I can pivot unless I get called on a 5-second violation. I can pivot as many times as I want, essentially. So when we go ahead and make that pivot, boom, love that PowerPoint animation, right? We've got our free foot in a new position now. We can allow the player to create or pursue new opportunities, but our pivot foot remains securely anchored in the spot that we own. Now, it has been reoriented a little bit. It has to be. Otherwise, it would be a really awkward standing position. So that's the basketball pivot. Ultimately, the business pivot is going to work the same way. We've got a pivot foot. That's our strategic core. Our strategic core needs to be unshakable, unbreakable, and steadfast. Okay? But the foot that can move, our free foot, is our operational model. Now that can be flexible, adaptive, and we can change it based upon the circumstances that we're facing. We're going to talk about both of these aspects of our business today. Okay? So really, ultimately, in order to execute the pivot in business, there are 3 things that we've got to do, and only 3. So you might want to write these down. I will go into some detail about each one of these. The first thing we got to do is we got to crystallize that strategic crystallize that strategic core, our pivot foot, the one that's not moving. We got to make sure that we fully understand that and we're ready. We know what's important to us and our business, and most importantly, our customers. Number 2, we've got a contingency plan for the likely scenarios. We know some stuff that's happened already. We think we know what's coming in the future. Okay, what are the big bets that we're going to make? And then number 3, we've got to actually go out and execute the operational shifts that are relevant to those contingency plans, to those likely scenarios that are going to happen. We got to be ready for that, and we got to make our bets. So we're going to go through all 3 of these things. First, crystallizing our strategic core. So there are just a couple of elements that I'm going to cover today, and I'm going to do them really briefly. I could probably spend an hour on each one of these, but I'm not going to, obviously. The first is mindset. Then we'll talk about our purpose, our mission, our unique value proposition, and our ideal customer. These are some things that we've got to have nailed down. Now, hopefully, many of you have done some work on some of this stuff already. You already know what your purpose is of your business. You already have a unique value proposition that's clearly articulated, and you know who your ideal customer is, and you're speaking to them actively anyway on an ongoing basis. We just want to make sure we've got that nailed down and reframed before we do anything else to pivot our businesses. So I'm going to start with mindset. Like I said, I could spend an hour talking just about mindset. There are so many different things that we can do, but I just want to emphasize that if we don't have our mindset right, none of the rest of this stuff matters. Anything that I'm going to talk about today is not going to be effective. We've got to be in the right mindset. So this is one quick tool. It's kind of a litmus test that I often use when we're trying to see, do we have the right focus? Do we have the right mindset to do the rest of the work on our business? We've all got problems. You can see that there's a line there that is problems. And this is a chart that I use every day, right? We always have problems. That's just fundamental. That's just a nature of doing business. But right now we've got some problems that are a little bit at a higher level than what we were anticipating, certainly something a little bit unprecedented. So we got two choices in terms of how we can react to those problems. We can live above the line with a victor mentality. We can be searching victory, and we can be taking ownership like victors. I could go into more detail on this, but I won't. I think you get it. We can be victors, or we can live below the line and be victims. And essentially, that's a choice that we've got to make. We got to make that right now. For what do we want to get out of this presentation, for example. We do that every meeting, every engagement that we go into. We can focus on the stuff that we can't control and the negative stuff and be victims and, oh my God, I can't believe that they're doing that. I can't believe that these guys are doing that. These guys are hosing me. This is terrible. We can focus instead on victory mindset. That doesn't really change any of those other circumstances. They're still there. The problems don't go away. But when we focused on what we can do, what we can control, we actually have a lot more of an opportunity to improve our situation. So the first thing we got to do is get this mindset right. Then we've got to actually crystallize the elements of our brand that we're going to lean into during these challenging times. And some of you have seen this. I'm just going to go through it really briefly. This is something that I've been talking about a little bit during this pandemic. We often think about, well, what do I do? What does my business do? It's really great if we can clearly articulate that. That's our mission. And if we do a really good job with that, we can hone that into our unique value proposition that we use in all of our marketing communication and dialogue. But beyond having our mission, Simon Sinek, who did a great TED talk called Start With Why, would tell you people don't care what you do so much as they care why you do it. So your purpose for being in business, and I don't mean your self-serving purpose, I mean your purpose for why does your business exist? Why should the marketplace that you serve care? And on that topic, in terms of the marketplace that you serve, I want you to think about your ideal customer. Whom do you serve? And get into some real detail there. I want you to mine those consumer insights. If you've been in business for a little while, you've been dealing with your customers, you know who's your ideal customer, and you know who's kind of not your ideal customer that sometimes you work with anyway. And knowing the difference between those two and pursuing that ideal customer, again, anytime, not just during crisis, that's a great idea to do. I want to give you a quick example. We're going to use this as completely fictitious. It's Jane Smith, an estate planning attorney. I know we've got some attorneys in the group, but this is completely made up. So Jane's mission is I provide unparalleled estate planning advice. That's what she does. That's her unique value proposition. She goes out and tells everybody about that every day. The why she does it, though, when she really gets deep into a conversation with somebody, she might say, hey, I believe I can offer hardworking people the tools to create generational wealth. Wow. That's what inspires her to go into the office every day and to work with people, creating generational wealth. And, if someone were hearing from Jane, they might be much more interested in the fact that why she does what she's doing than even the mechanics of what she does. So specifically, Jane has also put some thought into who her ideal client is. Whoops, let's go the right direction. Her ideal client is a dual income family concerned with their legacy. She's done a lot of work. It's not like she won't work with others, but she knows if she's got a dual income family and they've already got some concerns about their legacy and their future, that's the ideal client for her. Okay, so Jane's done that work. And the point in sharing this with you is COVID-19 or no COVID-19, that stuff doesn't change, right? That's still Jane's ideal customer. What has changed is what's on her customer's mind right now. So some quick consumer insights during coronavirus crisis. This is somewhat general. I'm not going to drain this chart, but hey, I've got a lot of anxiety. I'm concerned. Hey, I'm more focused on family. Now that I've been sheltering at home for a long time, I might be feeling a little cooped up, and cabin fever is kind of setting in a little bit. So these are all things going on with the client. I do want to share with you, obviously this is going to be something that's highly customized to your business and your situation, depending on what business you're in. Am I B2B? Am I B2C? Am I retail focused? Am I remote focused? Am I a web company anyway? But these are some emerging consumer trends that, in the wake of COVID-19, we all need to be aware of. When I put these up for you, you're going to look at these and be like, yeah, pretty much I get that. The point is it's not enough to get these. we're all going to get this. It's pretty straightforward. What we need to do is actually spend some time thinking through what are the implications to my business? What do I need to do to leverage these trends and to be on top of these trends for the benefit of my customer, right? Pretty simple stuff. So the first is the need for contact-free service and support. Now, this was probably the first pivot that most of our businesses have made already in the short term. It was great seeing Planet Fitness's video earlier today. Some really good examples there of how they've really changed up their service model in the short term in order to make sure that their customers are feeling supported and are going to feel the need to be kind of safe and secure in that environment as they, begin to get into these opening up phases. The question is going to be, what's a short-term pivot and what's a longer-term pivot? Which of these changes are here to stay? Because, are those consumer insights, are those consumer new behaviors going away? Is there going to be long-term concern? We don't necessarily know the full answers to that, but these are the scenarios that we've got to think through. Second major trend is the need to regain a sense of financial and health security. We are feeling very insecure as consumers. And again, this goes for business owners as well. Making those finances work. We've kind of got a new normal of, PPPs and EIDLs and things along those lines. We're also concerned about health. We are not necessarily feeling safe to be healthy in an environment where a couple months ago, it would have been a no-brainer. Even in going to events with this chamber, which have been amazing. I remember that when we first started to make some adjustments as a chamber, we were doing the elbow shake as a kind of an accommodation to a handshake. And that seemed, wow, why would we do that? Now, that seems like, wow, that was really sensible. It's really great that we've done that. When are we going to go back? Are we ever going? Are handshakes ever coming back? I don't know the answer to that. I don't claim to know the answer to that, but we know that that's a macro trend. We've got to take advantage or kind of understand what do we need to do in order to do right by our customers. And then lastly, there is a need to restore human interaction and social normalcy. The trends that we're seeing today are that people are sick of sheltering at home. They hate it. They want to return to normal, and they want to have that human interaction. They miss going to see grandma. They miss a lot of stuff about they're lamenting all the things that have been canceled, and rightly so, right? Now, that doesn't mean we necessarily, I'm advocating that we go back to normal, but we need to find, as business owners and leaders, some way to provide whatever benefit we can to get us back to human interaction and social normalcy. We've talked about social distancing now for a couple months. What we really need is physical distancing. And what smart businesses have started to do is to kind of create social connection even when we're physically distant. So finding a way to pivot on that. These are some macro trends. How they'll play out for your business, we'll have to see. Hopefully you've done some work thinking about that. So once you've gone through those macro trends and have thought through what your customer is actually looking for, what your customer needs, then we start contingency planning for the likely scenarios that are going to play out. And again, here we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to show to you, I've shared this with a couple of you before, something that we call the uncertainty matrix. These are things that we want to kind of keep in mind and take into account because there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know out there. And we've got to plan for a couple of different scenarios. When we do our exploratory and we actually dive deep into what some of these possibilities are, we're going to come up with a lot of really good ideas or really interesting ideas if we put the time and effort into it. But so then equally important is refinement. How do we take that long list and select the big bets that we're going to make, as well as some fallback options, because we're not necessarily going to be able to predict that perfectly. In fact, we almost certainly won't predict it perfectly. We're going to have to build in some mechanism for making some changes to the changes that we make. So first, the uncertainty matrix. I've shared this with some of you over the past couple months. There are things that we know and there are things that we don't know. And every marketing person loves a 2x2 matrix. This is something that FocalPoint developed. Certainly we've got a lot of known knowns. That's box A. They're facts. Now, we do have to fact check and we do have to challenge these so-called truths from time to time. There are also, though, for each of us, a lot of unknown knowns. That's box B. Those are things that are facts and that can be provable, but we just don't have them yet. So we've got to go out and do some searching for those. And then we've got a lot of unknowns out there. There are the quote unquote known unknowns, the things that we think we have control over, and we have a pretty good intuition and are able to do that. And then there's the unknown unknowns, the things that are really completely out there, the future, the far-fled stuff. That's exploration. We've got to explore what are those things, what are those possible scenarios. It takes time and effort to really nail those down. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, neither do you, right? I'm not saying we need to predict all of those things with certainty. That would be impossible. And to try and get it to that, even that level of detail or specificity would probably be somewhat of a wasted effort. We need to get close. We do not need a crystal ball picture here. One example of that is we've all been through this, right? We've all been through the cone of uncertainty. This is a graphic from a couple years ago. I think this was Hurricane Irma. Which way is it going to go? Is it going to go to the East Coast? Is it going to go to the West Coast? Is it going to go all the way up the state? This was taken, that blue dot is us here in the Coral Springs Parkland area. By the time I took this image, the eye of the storm was already parallel or to our north, and it was actually already taken the track to our west, but it pretty much moved up the state. The point is, we had to prepare for that storm as if all of those things were happening. As we got more information, we adjusted those plans. That's exactly what we need to do today. We've got a big crisis that's as big as a hurricane. And by the way, we've got hurricane season coming in, wow, a couple weeks too. So prepare for that as well. So, for our known knowns, we've got to do that fact checking, as I mentioned. For the unknown knowns, we got to figure out what vital information do we need to go out and research, find that. For the unknown knowns, the known unknowns, box C, we have to collaborate. And we have to validate the intuition, which I seem to have misspelled here. So sorry about that. I hate that. And then unknown unknowns. We're going to get into a little bit about scenario planning and wargaming right now. That takes some concerted effort to do. So I'm just going to kind of lay out how we go out and do that, because this is really what we're talking about, kind of the longer term pivots that we're going to make that are more than just a couple of weeks worth of stuff, right? So the three keys to that are we've got to put some concrete time and effort into that exploratory. This is not something that we knock off in a couple of minutes, right? This is not something that we just say, what am I going to do? We don't do it on a whim. We actually think that through. So make sure to put some time on your calendar, block off a couple of hours. Again, if you can do it as a team, that's fantastic. It's going to be better to be able to collaborate on that and really pull in the collective knowledge and collective intuition on that. The next step is to be honest and open about this. And what do I mean by that? I mean, it's easy for us to scenario plan the scenarios that we like. It's really difficult for us to scenario plan the scenarios that we don't like. If we're not intellectually honest about what's coming and about what's here, then we're going to ignore certain options. And what I've been telling some of my clients recently is we want to be Netflix. We don't want to be Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster was well positioned. Blockbuster, many people don't remember, they had a DVD mailing service that was at one point as big as Netflix DVD mailing service. But Netflix wasn't looking at themselves as a DVD mailing service. They were looking at themselves as an on-demand entertainment delivery system. And they were really looking at the future and saw that streaming was going to be the way to go. Blockbuster couldn't see that because they were so invested in brick and mortar establishments. They had hundreds of millions of DVDs, physical DVDs that they owned. So Blockbuster really didn't allow themselves to look into that possibility as Netflix did. Obviously, we know how that one turned out. And the last is prioritize and select. You are probably going to come up with a number of really great ideas. Great ideas, when you actually put the effort into it, are not hard to come by. You're all smart people. You've all achieved some success. You can really do that. However, you've got to choose. Why am I showing a picture of Geddy Lee, the front man for the band Rush? Because I quote from this song all the time. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Right? We've got to choose to decide what we're going to do. If we don't, we've made the choice to spread ourselves too thin to actually be able to accomplish anything. So these are three keys to success, critical success factors when you are contingency planning and exploring. Next, part 3, once we've established what those operational shifts need to be, we actually need to go out and go execute them. Execution is everything. A good idea that you don't execute ultimately is worth nothing. So this part's really important. So, a couple of things to keep in mind as we're executing. The first is let's embrace the quick and imperfect. Let's build in some feedback mechanisms because we're probably not going to get it completely right. We've got to really activate those big bets, but at the same time, get our fallback options prepared because we're going to need those. Okay. So I'm going to quote Voltaire from 1770, a nice recent quote. Perfect is the enemy of the good. We've probably all heard that before. So many of us are trying to find perfection. Don't wait for perfection. It's going to take you too long to get to perfection. Perfect is the enemy of the good. Right now, it's important that we be good. It's important that we get out there and we keep doing, we keep our businesses going, we keep our economy and our community going. So if we've got an idea for a pivot, I'm not saying, do it kind of go off halfway here. I'm just saying, if you've got it to an 80%, that's good enough, go. I'm also going to tell you the way you do that is to establish strong dialogue with your best customers. This is part of the open and honest piece. Ask open-ended questions. Don't lead the witness, right? Ask your open-ended questions and listen to their answers. They're going to tell you exactly what they need. They're going to tell you what's going to work for them, what's not going to work for them. You got to be open to listening for it. So even though your business is on your mind, they've got their own needs on their mind, which I showed you before. We're going to prepare a primary pivot plan that's going to, be based on a lot of those insights and a lot of those actions that you've decided to take. The must-haves for a pivot plan are, number one, customer centricity. As I mentioned, it's got to be about what's going to work for the customer. If it's entirely self-serving and this is, I'm going to collect this fee because I need this fee right now, that's not going to work. You got to focus on what's going to be in the needs, in the good of the marketplace. You've also got to make that pivot towards something that's going to advance your business model towards one of those longer term emerging trends. If you're not moving towards those trends, then again, you're not necessarily leveraging the knowledge and insight that you have. And remember, don't lift your pivot foot, right? When we were just talking about the basketball metaphor before, your strategic core has to remain firmly planted on the ground. What moves is your operational model. It is a pivot. It's not a shuffle of the feet. Shuffle the feet, you get called for double dribble, and that's a foul. Okay? And you've got to also be ready with your contingency options. You got to be monitoring what's going on. You got to be really awakened and looking and constantly monitoring and measuring what's going on out there. Be ready to adjust as conditions and as your financial forecasts, as other things change. Because certainly we know that we've seen already throughout this pandemic a lot of change taking place already. So that's it. I'm just going to summarize some of the action steps that I want you all to consider taking right now. And again, hopefully you've written some of this down. I don't care whether you write this down or whatever you write down a couple of action steps that you're going to actually go do to move your business forward and through this pandemic. The only way out of this crisis is through, right? We're already well into it. Now is the time to be looking forward and getting out of it. So our action steps are, number one, if you haven't done it already, nail down that strategic core, your purpose, your unique value proposition, your ideal customer. If it's all up here in your head, that's not good enough. Get it in writing. It's got to be in writing. And once you see it in writing, chances are you're probably not going to be as satisfied with it as you were when it was just in your head. You got to make it sing. You got to make it so that you're proud of it and you feel great about that, because that's your unshakable, unbreakable core. That's not leaving the ground, guys. That's what we're hanging our hat on or hanging our foot on. Don't move this foot. This is your pivot foot. But next, you will schedule some time. And as I mentioned, this is not just, things that sort of happen. Put some time down on the calendar, scenario plan and war game with trusted associates and advisors if you can. Do a red team, blue team thing where maybe someone's your competitor even, to figure out what's going to be going on out there. We're trying to create a scenario where our business not only survives, but thrives going forward. And we can do that if we're taking into account everything that's going on. And then lastly, we've got to launch that operational pivot as quickly as feasible. But again, short-term pivot may be different from long-term pivot. We've got to monitor for signals, whether that's helping or not helping. And although we don't know a lot of that stuff yet, we won't know it till it's happening. What we can know now are what are the beacons or the signposts that are going to demonstrate this to you. If the market does this, then I'm going to do that. If the government does this with respect to the next open up policy in phase 2 or phase 3, then that's when I do that. So monitor for those signals and know in advance what some of those signals are going to mean. Then you'll be able to react more quickly when they happen. I'm going to right now check the chat box if there are any questions. I see a couple things did come through in the chat. Let me take a quick look here. So I'm seeing some people saying great and great info. That's good. I appreciate that. Some private as well as well. I don't see any questions. So I'll give you guys a couple more seconds and then we'll move. Got like 1 or 2 more pages to show you. Oh, here's a good question from Lois. How often should we reevaluate our mission and the core? The way you phrased that question was really good. How often should we reevaluate our mission? If we do a great job with our strategic core, we shouldn't have to change it that much year to year. However, it does probably make sense to look at it and reevaluate it on, let's say, an annual basis or so. If we look at it, chances are we're going to look at it and say, wow, this is all still spot on. It's fantastic. When we get into a little bit more detail, we'll talk about goals and initiatives. Those might change year to year, but the core shouldn't change that much. As circumstances really change around our business, as we change as individuals and as business owners, we might make some changes over time, but it really shouldn't have to happen very often. Great question. Thank you very much. Any others? And thank you, everybody who said nice things. Great to be strategic as well as tactical. Thank you, Hillary. Yeah, I mean, we do have to spend a little bit of strategy time and then go and actually act on it. So that's the key, Hillary. It's you got to do both, right? We've got to be strategic, but then we've got to act in keeping with those strategies. And thank you very much for the kudos. Everybody's been really, really nice. That's wonderful. All right, so if there are no more questions, I'm going to just quickly go back to the next page. I'm going to give you my contact info. If you would like today's slides as a PDF, let me know. I'll be happy to send them to you. Just email me. Also, if you'd like to brainstorm your pivot with me, you can. You can either email me, we'll set up a time, or you can actually go directly onto my online calendar and you can book me. It actually is literally the website, youcanbook.me. I'm coachellismass.youcanbook.me. I don't charge for it. Just put a phone call directly on my calendar. Well, let's chat about your pivot. And if there's anything that you want to bounce off me, I'd be more than happy to have that conversation with anybody on today's meeting. I also did mention to you, I do have a free gift for you. These are 4 of our best training programs. So these are programs that I actually do as workshops live, and those are not free, but this is actually something that's online delivered. It's literally via PDF and Brian Tracy videos. It's actually a really, really great interactive system. So it's a website. Normally, I think most of these cost about $500. There's a couple that cost close to $1,000. If you've got anybody in your organization, this is not just for you as the owners. If there's anybody in your organization that you want to sign up for one of these superior selling skills, if you've got someone who sells for you, that is an excellent, excellent just course in how to structure that selling time. There's a time management one. Perform at your best, maximum achievement. That's all about mindset. Again, you can spend hours on that and get that right. Also, strategic performance. These are the best training programs. There's no coaching involved with this. This is all your individual access, and the free access, I'm going to give you just a code that's going to get you in. That lasts until July 1st. So you've got over a month to take advantage of that. If you want this, I will sign you up for it. You just got to reach out to me and let me know. And with that, I just want to leave you with one final thought, which is who you are right now is who you are always. So remember that. Remember that what you're delivering to your customers and your community right now represents who you are always. So whatever you're going to be, as I always like to say, be outstanding. And I'm going to say thank you. There's my email one more time. I'm going to turn that back over to Andrea right now, and I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ellis. That was amazing. Ellis is a wonderful coach, and what a great topic for us right now. Very timely. Thanks again. So right now, we would like to celebrate milestones of our members who have reached a significant milestone at the Chamber. For 15 years, we have AmTrust Bank, AmeriCorporation, National Transaction Corporation, Florida Power and Light. 10 years, Butech Corp, Country Club of Coral Springs, Weinberg, PA, and Runyons. 5 years, A Plus Foundation, NUSA, Don Walters, and Specialized Metals. Congratulations to everybody for reaching these milestones at the Chamber. So thank you for your support and your commitment to the Chamber. We'll see you next month at the breakfast. It was great seeing everybody today. I miss you guys. I can't wait till we could do this in person again.